minutes. This is our first of a monthly webinar series. We will do many different topics, but today's topic is specifically about Rancho La Paz, Sanandi, and biodynamics. And then we're going to allow Dr. Dieter to tell us a little bit about his background and touch on some of the questions that everyone has. So before we get started, I really want to thank you all for taking the time to spend with us on this Monday morning. We know 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock Mexico time is not the most convenient time for everyone, but obviously it's the time that we could make happen for this webinar. For the future, we will go ahead and try to make it more accommodating, maybe an evening time. But I'd really like to also thank our team members. Everybody has worked very hard in getting this webinar and just the Sanandi project together. We're very passionate about this project, and we want to talk to everybody that will listen and tell them about what's going on at Sanandi and what Rancho La Paz has and Dr. Dieter have created in the last 20 years. So we're so thankful that you decided to join us on this call. So really, I just want to let you know Sanandi is an outgrowth of Rancho La Paz. Rancho La Paz is the actual farm. And Rancho La Paz and Sanandi is a way for Dr. Dieter to share what we're creating and what he's creating with the earth. He really is an amazing person, probably one of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life. And I've had the pleasure of visiting the farm. And I want everyone to hear his story and his passion and basically what drives him to do what he's done for the last 20 years and spreading this amazing message that we all need to take note of, because we know we're in a precarious situation right now in society, and the earth is going through major changes, and we have the ability to do good and change that. So without further ado, let me introduce Dr. Dieter Lenoir, the man behind Sanandi.
Hi everybody. I'm here, the farmer and physician, and for me it's a little strange. For me, it's the first time I'm in such a webinar and not seeing you all directly to your face. And when I know we need to take care of also of the technological part to communicate what we are doing. And thank you very much, Kevin, for organizing this. And please be my guide and tell me what questions do you want to start with and how we are going to discuss this morning about the farm in Sanandi. So please, you start the question, I give you my answers, and what do you want me to specifically talk about?
Fantastic. Well, why don't you just explain everybody a little bit about your background and basically the beginning and why you decided to start Sanandi, Rancho La Paz.
Bueno, my name is Dieter Lenoir. I have a German-French background. I was born here in Mexico City, and since childhood I was always in love with this country and with its earth and with its tradition in food and in medicines. But when I finished my high school, I went to Africa for 1 year, and I met some physicians who worked for Doctors Without Borders. And from there, my inspiration grew to start the medicine career. So I came back to Mexico, studied medicine for 6 years, and at the 6th year, you have to do a social service. And in this social service, I went to a very poor community in Mexico, in the central part of Mexico, in Oaxaca, where I really confronted the limitation of my studies of allopathic medicine, of modern medicine, when I made a diagnosis of this community, very poor community. I treated it with medicine, regular allopathic medicine, and at the end of the year, I made another diagnosis, and I could see how they did not improve in their health, that I just could control some diseases. And this made me change completely my way of looking what I have studied, and my long journey started through looking for new responses one of the responses I found very interesting because of the similarities of Mexican traditional medicine and Ayurvedic medicine. So I went to United States, studied in Ayurvedic Institute in New Mexico. And from there, I went to Bastir, studied some naturopathic medicine. And from there, I made a long journey to India, and I went to a hospital, and I worked in a hospital which unites allopathic medicine with Ayurvedic medicine, so I could get the practice of both, see the complementation of both systems. And then from there, I went back to Europe and studied also homeopathic and anthroposophical medicine. Until I was 30 years old, I came back to Mexico, opened my private practice, and from then I have been now practicing 22 years in my private practice in Mexico. So this is my background for what I have studied. And in 1998, my brother and I, we bought a farm 2 hours west from Mexico. And my interest in farming began because I wanted to grow medicinal herbs, not just prescribe them, and to see how is the growing process of these herbs. And this opened a new window for me because I really understood for the first time that the fertility of the earth and its resilience and its health, from there depends the whole health of the whole cycle of the system, from bacteria to human beings. If we do not have health on the fertility of our soil, everything else cannot improve their health. So then my passion started to bring together medicine with agriculture. And from there, we have now been studying or working with the earth for 20 years here on the farm, which is called Rancho La Paz, which is like a peaceful small valley in the mountains, surrounded by woods. And we have 2.5 hectares designated to growth of medicinal herbs, national, international, different type of herbs. And we have a small lab where we transform these herbs in different products for Sanandi, which is a company we opened 10 years ago. And now we established this contact to see if we can get some interest in the United States with these products we grow here in Mexico.
That was beautiful. Thank you very much for that. So why don't you tell, because I think one of the biggest questions that we deal with when we introduce people to our products is about biodynamics and basically the principles that, that we instill at Sanandi, Rancho La Paz. Why don't you kind of give us what your definition of biodynamics and permaculture, whatever umbrella you want to put it under. Why don't you kind of talk about that a little bit for everybody?
Yes, when we received this land, they grew potatoes here, and I could really see the destruction in front of my eyes, what conventional agriculture can destroy in 2 years. And there's a parallel about how we treat nature and how we treat human beings. What only matters in agriculture is to get the amount of calories out of the earth and sell it as a commodity. What was the case with these potatoes? And I saw the destruction it left behind. So the first thing was to regenerate this earth again and to bring life into it. So we start with compost, microbiome of the earth, and to permit that the earth can reestablish itself and detox from all the substances it was really burned away the fertility. So it took 3-4 years, and from there we went into different phases. The first phase was permaculture, organic type of agriculture, where we could rebuild again the small ecosystem which was badly hurt, and this took like 3 years. And then we went into a little bit more sophisticated, I would say, or more subtle agriculture, which is called the biodynamic agriculture, which is a new type of agriculture for many people. And I will explain it very shortly because it's a complicated issue. But biodynamic comes from the founder, which is Rudolf Steiner, who gave a conference in 1924, where he could forecast the disaster in our agriculture, and that when we destroy the fertility of the earth, our food is going to get less and less the vital forces we need to reestablish the health of animal and human beings. So for me, it was very interesting, and I went to Switzerland. I studied this agriculture, and I like the concept because they see the land as an organism, and a living organism, which has many organs and systems. And what we try is that these organs and systems interact correctly so that the whole potential of the fertility of the earth is giving back to the plants, in this case, medicinal plants, and also foods, which we can harvest and then process, which can give again the vital forces we need to reestablish our health, which we have lost through the degradation of our fertility of the earth. What it means that all our nutrients and our food and our herbs, our medicinal plants we use for millennia are now very poor in their components, in the vital forces, and this makes the difference of reestablishing the fertility of the earth and bringing herbs again, which have the potential, the pharmacopeal, they call it the pharmacopeal strength to have, to can help us to reestablish our health. So as we reestablish the health of our soil, the same thing, because we are a system which is intrinsically interwoven with the ecology where we live, as we work together as doctor and or as healthcare professional and agriculture, if we can bring these two things together, we can start talking about health. And the most important thing is what we call salutogenesis, how we can create health again. And the health has to come from a new culture, and a culture of respect for our agriculture, and from there on bring this web of life in its maximum equilibrium to create health in the whole system. Of course, in the human being at the end of it.
Definitely.
So biodynamic agriculture is just a method to reestablish this organism respectfully, to get the highest quality of food and medicinal plants, which is certified by an international Demeter association, which is in Germany. And we have been now certified in Demeter for more than 15 years. There are 2 farms in Mexico who have are certified in Demeter, and I think there are more than 600 worldwide. So we are very small. It's a very small farm, but the important thing, it's like a homeopathic drop, which we hope we can start communicating with other land pieces who are the same interest, and to have the same interest of creating health again from the basis, from the fertility of the earth.
Excellent. And I think in a future webinar, we can discuss a little more about our mycelium project and exactly how we plan to do that. I think what would be good to touch on also is, what are the daily responsibilities that you have at the farm? You know, like what part do you play at the farm?
The first thing, we are a big group. No, my responsibility, of course, is to see that we get the best seeds, the best plants, and that we get always a stronger fertility, which needs less and less consuming inputs from outside. A farm is healthy as less need is taken from outside in electricity, energy, fertilizers, etc. So an organism is healthy as he gets more independent and more free. Rudolf Steiner called this an individuality. A farm has to be like an individual who has to be healthy. As a human being is healthy, as less doctors and healthcare systems he needs. So to reestablish this health, we are on the process, because who can really explain what fertility is and the importance? It is such a complex and huge theme that we just can touch in certain areas and see if we have more life, more health, and if we can consume less and less from outside. So this is the most important issue. And the final stage is to have a durable fertility, which does not need more inputs. So we are in this way, and we are researching a lot and how to get to this point. But we are a group of almost 30 people working on the farm. Each person has its own responsibility, and we work like a system, and everybody gives to this system the best of their intellectual capacity and of course of their heart, because the most important thing of the whole project is that there's a big heart behind of many Mexican people who are giving their day in and day out their work, all made by hand. We do not use machines. Everything is done by hand. And that's one of the projects in our foundation. We want to create really, again, this dignity to work with the soil of the earth as one of the most important tasks to heal ourselves as human people, to get in contact with our ecology and understand that the ecology is our extended body. And if we start to understand and see the interaction and not just seeing the profit we can take out of it, we can start to creating this organism, and we are just part of this huge organism, which is the farm, and which one, let's say, catalytic enzyme is the human being, working so that the evolution of a farm, the fertility and its potential can grow and grow and grow, and we can learn to interact, to get the most knowledge of it and understand the sacredness of working together to get the highest quality. And the most important thing after everything we do is to establish higher and higher standards of quality, which can bring health to the whole system, earth, animal, and human being.
Definitely. Thank you. Well, you know, biodynamics is very energy focused, and, you know, the average individual sometimes finds it difficult to, you know, play a part in what we're trying to do. So how can someone, you know, incorporate this into their everyday life? Like how can they be included in this project? What can they do? What can they start to do on a personal level?
I think on a personal level, the main issue, what we are all trying to get, is that we can become more healthier. In a profoundly sick society where the human being is getting sicker and sicker, we are following a path of pathogenesis, the generation of disease. And now we are in a very unique situation in humanity where we have to rethink and interconnect ourselves again to the health-giving properties of our ecology and how we can interact with it. This is the biology, a new biology of feeling, of interconnection, what we need to establish. So we all want more potential in our consciousness. We all want to live healthier, happier lives. So we need to start to interconnect ourselves with the archetypes which are lost in the human beings. So we need to first, as we have done in our land, we have to first clean ourselves from all the pathogenesis, mental, spiritual, and of course physical. And so we have to incorporate again a good nutrition, a good way that we can reestablish a better and healthier metabolism, because if our metabolism is clean and works nicely, our whole evolution and our whole potential gets increased. So the first thing where we communicate directly with nature is through our metabolism, which is basically our digestive system. So we need to see how we can reestablish a healthy immune system through our gastrointestinal system, which is like the interconnector of what we take from outside in ourselves. So to get more conscious about it is to create what we want to give our body is more health-giving properties to regain our health again, and with this to become more and more conscious, to get a new biological thinking of how we can interact with our system around us and see how we can detox our system and communicate with it on a different way that improves the health of the planet. This is the main issue of our project. Of course, we are at the first step. It is very complicated, and we have just a little farm, which can be seen now as a little example that the interaction between human being and ecology can be very different and can be very, very health promoting. And so this health promotion, this new consciousness of health, we need to bring it to the people that so that they have the tools, the medicines, the food they can get to reestablish their health and become more and more interested in creating a cooperation between different islands of fertility, of different ideas, so that we can enrich ourselves as a community, a health-giving community for the future, for ourselves, for our family, and for the planet.
So based off of that response, is it safe to say that we believe that biodynamics can save our future, save mankind, save humanity, save the earth?
No, I would never say biodynamic. Biodynamic is a system, and it's a philosophy behind it. We are engaged in this philosophy, but we are also engaged in Hans-Peter Rusch's work, which is a great physician also from Switzerland, who brings this biological agriculture. Then we have permaculture. Then we have Fukuoka in Japan. There are many people working. So we should not marry with any system and bring biodynamic as the only system which can reestablish health. I think from the philosophical point of view, biodynamic is telling us that if we destroy the vital forces of nature which created us, we do not have any possibility to have an aspiration for health. So biodynamic is one aspect. And what we need to bring is a synthesis of all systems, a synthesis of all types of medicines, of all types of agriculture. And then we have to focus on how we can create health locally in different types of ecosystems. So biodynamic is just an inspiration, as is Bill Mollison's in permaculture from Australia, what he has done. There are so many examples and so many farms and people who are working. So we should, I believe, we should not marry with one system, but we should create a school of biodynamic, of salutogenic approach of life, which can be enriched by many systems and many thoughts and many types of consciousness, east, west, east, south, north, and that we create slowly the understanding to have a respectful understanding of nature and to help to create more consciousness in our individuality.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, that's been 20 minutes already, which is surprising that we've touched on so much in a short time. But we have a lot of questions. Actually, I'm getting messages and people want to speak to you. So I'll open up the floor. And the first question comes from a very special person to me. It is my mother. She actually would like to know if you feel that these principles and these fundamentals can help reverse GMOs in the soil, in the air, and in the ocean?
No, of course, one of the things we are not conscious enough to start manipulating nature in the way we're doing it today, because we cannot forecast the consequences of what we're doing. It's an open experiment. It's a very dangerous experiment because I, as a physician, I'm at the end of the pathogenesis, and I see so many patients which have so different type of diseases which cannot even established with conventional medicinal diagnosis of conventional medicine, because we are creating more and more weakness in our system, allergies, inflammation types, immune weakness, autoimmune diseases, which start mirroring how we have destroyed nature and how this is going to affect our humanity. So we have two possibilities: to suppress this with cortisone, with antibiotics, with the typical allopathic approach, which is an anti-medicine, suppress the symptom. So what we need to understand is this thread of this fine thread of life, which has to be first respected, then cultivated. The word cultivation is so important. What we cultivate, and it's cultivating, it's very different than manipulating and destroying and getting a profit out of it. So what we need to first is to understand nature, and then we can see if we can be so intelligent to start manipulating one part of nature. I think our level of consciousness worldwide is, or our science is far away to understand the beauty, the harmony, and how nature works. And when we make an intervention like manipulating genes with different substances, it is the sure way of going wrong in our health. This is going to create more and more pathogenesis and more power of the big pharma industry.
Fantastic. Our next question also, it kind of segues right into a question from Anthony, who asks, where were the plants sourced from to start the farm?
All our plants are open pollinized seeds. All plants we have, which are not locally grown or Mexican seeds or ancient Mexican traditional plants, are brought all from certified Demeter seeds from Germany, Switzerland, United States. There are many providers today for seeds. All our foods are also all open pollinized seeds. They call heirloom seeds. So we are very conscious about the seeds from where everything starts. And we have now a very big seed bank with approximately 100 different plant seeds, which have been grown biodynamically for the last 20 years. So our seed bank is really at the core of the importance of saving the seed, cultivating the seed, because the seed, basically what it is just a memory. And if you treat the seed correctly in the correct soil, and I would add the correct cultivation of the farmer, then we have very potent seeds which have the capacity to restore health and to treat ill health.
Fantastic. That was great. We have one more question. This comes directly from Gregory Adams. Thanks, Greg. He would like to know how to teach the next generation of disciples regarding this combined allopathic, homeopathic medicine, and the best of all traditions to express this approach to a wider global audience of beneficiaries? Great
Yes,
question.
this is a big question.
That is a great question.
Far too big for me, but what I can say, we are trying this in a very small scale. We're giving seminars to doctors here in Mexico, small allopathic doctors, and also now we're giving to healthcare professionals and health coaches, because here in Mexico, they are popping a lot of health coaches up now, because our country is so profoundly sick in its metabolic syndrome, we call, which is obesity, hypertension, diabetes, fatty liver, etc. We live in a society which is so profoundly sick because of what they eat. So we need to get to healthcare professionals. And together with Antonio, we are starting to make a plan and how we how we can complement allopathic medicine, modern medicine, not just saying that this medicine does not work in biodynamic, anthroposophical, or Ayurvedic medicine is the way to go. No, we have to create a system which can be very functional, where you have a roadmap, where you can use different type of systems, understands the basics, and create a new type of sensitivity of consciousness on what is good for every person, because everyone is individual. There's no one system which can help everybody. So we need to create this synthesis, and we have to create a roadmap of salutogenesis in food, in medicinal herbs, in lifestyle, in exercise, etc., where we can offer people the information and the products, hopefully, from many farms, not from this farm, but to create a web which can interact with different islands of health, so we can get together in a community, understand the different systems, and promote consciousness, which is the same as health. And this system has not been created, and I think we are not going to be able to see it. It takes long time, and we are just researchers and putting into practice. And after 20 years of practice as a doctor and seeing many patients, I think we have now some first steps which have to be now brought down in paper, and see how we can create more seminars, more health conscious people, more professionals, more doctors, to see that the complementation is the most important thing. It's the communication, the complementation, which can start creating the laboratory for a new consciousness, a new health consciousness, I would say.
Health consciousness and overall consciousness. I think you hit it correct.
Yeah, this is, for me, consciousness and health is the same. No, the problem is, what is consciousness? It's also a very difficult term, but consciousness basically is the manifestation of the individual potentiality. And what we need to create is a system that every human, every animal, every farm, every insect can have the ambiente, no, around it, so every part of this ecosystem can complete its function to create more and more levels of awareness and conscious in the future. And now we are in a very, very, very peculiar moment in history, where we are on the 6th big extinction, and that the human being needs to be the most creative human being ever in this evolution of our planet, to fix this problem and to create a new consciousness of health, of intercommunication, which we call it the big web, or we call it the big mycelium web, taking the image of the mycelium, of how this mycelium under the earth, which is the fungi, which is the mushroom, how it communicates and creates new levels of communication and fertility and possibility of evolution. So this is one day we talk about the whole concept of the great healer, intercommunicator of what the mycelium can be as a just simple image which can create inspiration in us to be more and more aware of the importance of intercommunication, interaction, and healing, which is so important at this critical time we are living now in.
That was beautiful. And I think we'll end it at that, because that was a great way to end our very first webinar. So I would like to say thank you very much, Dr. Dieter, for taking time out of your day and to go over this message and the project with all of us. I'd also like to thank everybody for all the questions and the great engagement. And no, this is just our first webinar. This will be a monthly series. We will have many different healthcare practitioners that are part of the Sanandi team that will go ahead and provide the information and knowledge that they've attained throughout their years of practice. You know, I couldn't feel more proud to be affiliated with a group of people that care for the growth and the survival of humanity and this earth. So thank you, Dr. Dieter, and I will work hard. We'll all work hard every day to keep on spreading this message. So
thank you, everybody, and a pleasure to meet you. I would like to see all your faces because I just see the face of Kevin. But best wishes, and hopefully this communication north-south, Mexico and United States, we can create something very beautiful in a new way of new communication, south-north, north-south, to enrich ourselves and see if we can create something together. Hopefully, Kevin, you as Sanandi United States, we can start touching also the whole pathogenesis, and hopefully the farm and Sanandi can bring something nice and good and healthy for the American people also.